raise your hand, we'll hand out the mics, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, wow, it's wonderful to see all of you guys. It haven't had a full room like this in a while, so it's great to have you. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, we're excited. It's almost hard to believe basketball season is here. As a coach, your brain is always turning, constantly all year long. And you think, oh, I have time to do this, I have time to do that. We have time to, get this player doing, certain things. And then all of a sudden, boom, season's here. And so I just said it a minute ago, I say it all the time, like ready or not, it's go time. So we're very excited about our basketball team coming off a great season, an NCAA tournament team, definitely graduated a couple of important pieces to our team, but we return a lot of veterans who've played a lot here at CU and added some really important pieces, and we're pretty fired up that basketball's here.
Hi, Coach. Obviously, you mentioned losing some of the talented players you lost. Obviously, Maya is going to stick in a lot of people's minds. Who are you kind of looking at now that's kind of filling her role? Obviously, Quay was kind of first person off the bench last season. How is she kind of stepping into that maybe a starting role this season?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Quay, is someone that should have a really big impact on our team this year as far as filling that role. I always say when you lose a really great player that's very impactful, you never replace that player with one person. It's a collective effort. And the makeup and dynamic of your team is different, when you lose a really dynamic player. But Quay is definitely, Quay could have started on any Pac-12 team, including ours. But she just sort of filled that role of being able to bring that scoring, rebounding punch off the bench. But we expect her to have a really big impact. She's capable of scoring, rebounding. I've been very impressed with Quay's desire and ability to lead from a vocal standpoint. About 2 weeks ago, Coach Alex and I met with Quay and Tamia and said, it's time for you guys to step up and take ownership of this team. Not saying you have to lead or you have to be this, but you're not the new kids from Washington anymore, so have an impact, use your voice, and things like that. And Quay, I think, has taken that very personally in a positive way. She's probably the loudest player on our team right now, and that was a big void, that we needed to be filled, and she's doing a great job.
Coach, last year was obviously a big step for this program, and it would be easy to kind of relax after that. How do you keep the foot on the pedal going into this year?
Yeah, I think as coaches, we're naturally wired to say, what's next? How can we be better? Every day, to be honest, we're trying to be better than we were the day before. We're pretty fortunate that we have some players that are also very like-minded in that. So, we were really excited to make the NCAA tournament last year. We were extremely disappointed to not come out of the first round. And so I think that's been also used as motivation, not only for our coaches, but our team. Our point guards in particular, I think, have a very sort of competitive mindset that wants to help us be better and make sure that our impact is even greater this year.
Here, when we sat here this time last year, did you expect Kendall to be as impactful as she was as a true freshman and be one of the best defenders in the whole Pac-12? And now, where do you expect her to kind of go this year?
Yeah, great question. We knew when Kendall committed very early, I think it was beginning of her sophomore year in high school, and we knew that she was going to be a great player on a really good team, which we were. I don't think any of us knew that she would have such an impact so early in her career, but she has the mindset, like she's very level-headed, nothing phases her, so that should have spoken to us a little bit earlier, in recognizing how she could impact our season. But Kendall's great. I told everybody last year, and I say the same thing, she's a coach's dream. She's one of the hardest workers every single day. She does her job. She doesn't complain. She's appreciative. She, helps her teammates be better. She's incredible, and I think she's going to have a real breakout year.
Here at the beginning of October, just looking at your team, which positions do you expect there to be kind of the most competition at in terms of, setting the lineup and, with so much roster turnover last year too?
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely think we have some impactful players. What's also kind of interesting right now, Charlotte Whitaker's back after being out for a year after 2 major hip surgeries. It's incredible to see how she's moving, how she's playing, really kind of regained her form. 2 years ago in the WNIT in the postseason, Charlotte was probably our best player. You know, Jalen was out with a hip surgery, and Maya was picking up fouls left and right and didn't even play a lot. You know, in the NIT, Charlotte was really good. But someone who also is going to compete for that position is Aranette Von Lay, who's been out the last couple weeks with an injury, but she is incredible as well. So I think that position is pretty stiff competition. You know, Sela Finau, who played a lot of minutes at the wing for us, has opened up a pretty big opportunity on the wing. So there's a lot of people competing there. You know, Tamia, Frida started the first half of the year. Tamia, you know, took that starting spot the second half of the year. Those two are both really playing well. So, you know, Jalen and Kendall are both really good and have to be on the floor. So I think at all positions, we have veterans that can impact. We also have new players that can really challenge those veterans.
Hi, Coach. As you ramp up for the season, what are you looking at for the short term? What are your ambitions there? And where do you want to be at when the season begins?
When the season begins?
Just the first game.
Yeah. I mean, every coach will tell you, and I'm no different, that the goal is to be better today than we were yesterday. You know, that's easy. You know, what we're really trying to navigate right now, when you graduate impactful players, and I don't just mean points, you know, like someone that we really miss right now is Peanut, you know, because she was the loudest player on our team. Every day she brought vocal presence to our gym. You know, we say a loud gym is a winning gym. And so while Peanut wasn't our best scorer, you know, or our best rebounder per se, that right now is the biggest void on our team. So we're trying to figure out who's going to fill that. That's why I'm so proud of Quay, you know, because she's doing a great job filling that right now. I think we're all trying to navigate new roles within our ball club. And, you know, so the goal is to have everyone feeling great, playing great, knowing their role, executing both ends of the floor. And there's times right now, you know, 4 practices in, that we're doing that very well. There's times also right now where it kind of falls off, it gets quiet, who's going to step up and lead, that kind of thing. So definitely the goal is to make sure we're all on the same page. We have a sort of a well-oiled machine by November 7th.
Coach, you spoke to the competition and how you can go 6, 7 deep with a lot of experience.
Yeah.
What are you looking for from some of your younger players to crack the rest of that rotation, and who stood out to you so far?
Yeah, I think the biggest jump from high school to college, no matter where you played high school or what level it was, is just the speed and the strength of the game. Everything is moving at warp speed. You know, sometimes freshmen feel like they're drinking out of a fire hydrant because everything is new, everything's uncomfortable, and everything is moving faster than you've seen before. And so we have, you know, players that are still adjusting to the pace and sort of tenor of what we're doing. Like I said already, Aranette Von Lay is going to be a hugely impactful player for us. She's not a freshman, you know, but she is a new player for us. You know, Bree McLeod from Toronto, Ontario is playing really well right now. I think it's mostly important for new players to figure out, what is my role? I can't do what I did in high school. It just doesn't really work, you know, at the same pace and stuff. What can I do, you know, that will be successful? Maybe it's just running the floor really hard every time. Maybe that's having an impact on the glass. You know, maybe my shot isn't, you know, it's not quick enough to get it off at this level yet, but man, I can rebound every single possession. You know, so trying to help our new players sort of navigate that, you know, and don't try to be all things to all people. Just figure out the few things that I can do really well right now and kind of thrive in that role.
In hindsight, how much of a loss was it to have Tamia out of the tournament last year? And then how much do you think of an impact she'll make when she comes back to you guys right now?
Yeah, it was a huge loss for us. Mostly just from, you get to the end of the season, and whether you've had injuries early or not, everybody's pretty comfortable in the flow of a game. You know who's coming in at what time, you know who's looking to score in crunch time situations, you know certain plays are called for certain people, and everybody flows off of that. A lot of times it's just health and comfortability, you know, at the end of the year. And when Tam went out, it just disrupted a lot of things. It automatically shifted people into different roles, people that needed to look to score that hadn't been scorers, you know, throughout the year. And so it was a huge loss for us, you know, in that way. Tamia is one of the most talented players in our roster, flat out, hands down. She can do certain things that the rest of us can't, you know, just from sort of, you know, growing up with older brothers and playing basketball her whole life. She's very comfortable with the ball in her hands. So we need and expect her to have a really important role, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
JR, you had the same staff for a number of years, and I imagine there's some comfort in that as a group. You lost 2, you know, pretty, you know, well-respected, well-liked members of that staff.
Yeah.
So how good is that maybe for those of you that are still here, you, T, Alex, to kind of be challenged a bit with some new faces here and just kind of changing the dynamics of the staff, even though you liked the two
new
that left?
people, yeah. It definitely was a challenge, especially throughout the spring. The spring has become one of the busiest recruiting times of the year with transfer portal recruiting and, different things like that. And so spring was very difficult. And anytime you lose someone, like Chandrika, like Monica, that they're not just coaches or staff members, like they're family. We've been together a long time. This is the first season in, I don't know, at least 10 years that we've gone in without Chandrika. And that's not just my discomfort. That's the other staff members. That's the players. The great thing is that we replace those staff members with people that we also have known for 20 years. They just haven't necessarily been coaches with us. So being able to add Tim, being able to bring Shelly Sheets back to our staff has been wonderful. It's just different. And so it's been a good challenge for all of us to, learn to navigate the newness. And, with newness comes discomfort. It also comes a lot of new ideas and new thoughts and ways of looking at things. So I think that's been really good for us.
JR, sitting here today and listening to both you and Tad talk, it seems like some of the challenges that he has in his program right now are the same you have in your program with maybe a void in leadership and getting people to take on new roles. When entering a season when leadership is the thing you're most concerned about, is that sort of, I guess, say that your program's on good footing, the foundation's solid when you can focus more on that as opposed to maybe talent or we don't have enough here, we don't have enough there?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I wouldn't say I'm concerned about our leadership. We just are asking people to play in different roles than they have in the past. We have a lot of potential. Someone like Peanut, I keep going back to her, but her time here, she was here for so long in such a role that she led from a very early age. And so, but I mean, Jalen Sherrod, Kendall Wetta, we have Quay Miller. There's a lot of people that we're asking to, to sort of step into those roles. But I think we have a great foundation. You never want your new players to be the best players on your team. You want people to have been here, been through the wars, so to speak, and then add talent to a pretty solid roster, which is what we've done. So we feel good about our roster. I think we have everything we need to be successful as far as ability to score, ability to defend, ability to rebound. And so I'm excited where we are, but I also need to keep challenging our players to step up more, in those leadership roles.
JR, you struggled at times last year shooting the ball, some lulls. Is there anything that you're doing schematically, whether it's on or off the ball, to get better looks from outside, or does it just come down to simply just making shots?
Yeah, well, there's always both, when you go back and really study the film, as coaches, we're very self-reflective, in the off season. How could we have been better? What could we have done, offensively or defensively? We actually got, the shots we took were good looks, for the most part. We talk a lot about good shot, bad shot, so our players know if it's a very contested shot with time on the clock, that's probably not a very good shot. So most of them were pretty uncontested looks. But we've spent a lot of time shooting, and really, trying to build confidence, trying to tweak some technique, in our shots and things like that. We've recruited players that can shoot the ball. Jada Wynn is in practice one of the best shooters we've had. And she's a freshman that's confident and played a lot of high-level basketball so far. So we've recruited players that can shoot and also worked on it a lot.
JR, how much pride do you take in, as a program, being able to bring in some transfers? Obviously, that's a new era of college sports with the portal and everything, but you guys have brought in some high-level players, and maybe they just didn't have the success or the role they wanted at a previous program, and they've kind of made a home here. How much pride do you guys take? Obviously, you want to develop and recruit players, but how much pride do you take in that and being able to provide a place that players want to come to for a second chance?
Yeah, we do take a lot of pride in development. We use My Hollingshed as the perfect example. Coming out of high school with not a single Power 5 offer, Jalen Sherrod, not a single Power 5 offer, players that came in with a chip on their shoulder that wanted to be great and believed that they were capable. And we pour a lot into development. And so that is something that we take a lot of pride in. The transfers that we've had, Quay had a huge impact. Aaronette Bonlay is going to have a huge impact to me as Sadler. We knew those guys from high school, especially Quay and Aaronette. In a lot of ways, in high school, it came down to us and Arizona, us and Washington. They started there. But relationship is really important for us. So being able to, we don't want to just pull kids out of the portal. We want to make sure that we're able to recruit people that fit our culture, that want to be great teammates, that want to be, great in the classroom and be able to do the things that we take pride in. So I think those guys coming here and having a lot of success and being able to fit in and do well, I think will speak to, let's say, next year's transfers, that might want to come in, that when there's an opportunity and it makes sense, that you can actually come and have an impact.
Coach, with last year's success, is the NCAA tournament kind of a benchmark for what would be a successful season this year?
Yeah, of course. I mean, again, I'll go back to we just want to get better every day, which is true. But yeah, we want to be an NCAA tournament every single year. That's the goal, and to make a run in the NCAA tournament. Being there is our expectation. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. We just did it for the first time last year, but that's our expectation. We recruit players that want to compete for championships and are driven to be great, and that's where we plan to be.
Well, last season, as we've talked about a lot, was obviously a breakthrough for this program, winning 22 games, making the NCAA tournament. What are the biggest positive effects that you've noticed from that? Any carryover, whether it's been on the recruiting trail, whether it's even just the general feeling around the building or in practices?
Yeah, I would say both of those, are important. The biggest thing I noticed last year as we were going through Pac-12 play, and I don't know that I could necessarily have said it before last year, is that our team fully expected to win every single game that we played. And it wasn't a fluke that we beat Oregon. It wasn't a fluke that we beat Oregon State. It wasn't a fluke that we swept the LAs. We believed that we were going to beat those teams. And I think last year was the first time I could honestly say that, as far as the scout was prepared before. They knew what we needed to do, but I never saw until last year that true, 1 through 15, we know we're going to beat Oregon, that kind of thing. And so to me, that's the biggest blessing, because as coaches, we know we can beat people. You need every single member of your ball club to know that, not just hope for it. And so I know that this group going into a game against Stanford, a game against, whoever it might be, we know we can beat everybody. And so we just have to continue to have sort of that chip on our shoulder every day in practice and continue to get better and, all those things. But to me, that's the biggest blessing. Just
Call it out. Just two feel-good things to finish it off. One, Sophie Gerber gets her scholarship. Can you kind of touch on that? And then also being able to have Shelly Sheets back on your staff as a buff, one of the best buffs to play in this program. Can you talk about those two topics?
Yeah, so we'll start with Sophie, who's not here today. She's celebrating Yom Kippur. But she has been, we laugh because every day we have a game, she writes on the board, it's a great day to be a buff. It's kind of her thing. And if it's ever not there, we're like, Sophie, what, and so she writes it on the board. And that kind of embodies her mindset. She's been here on an academic scholarship, very bright young lady, has worked as hard as anyone in our program, has accepted her role as someone that, wasn't, her first couple years going to get a lot of game reps, but worked so hard in practice, put in extra work in the weight room, everything a coach wants out of a player. And she's a great teammate. She's there. She's supportive. So to be able to give her, that scholarship this year is just, it's awesome. As a coach, it's a dream come true. I know for her, it feels the same way. And so it's really cool to see her teammates celebrate her like they did. And she's continuing to work, as hard as ever. So that's great. Losing Shannon, Monica, and even Jill, who joined the police academy in the middle of last year, those were 3 really important women on our staff, that our players loved and trusted and went to, when they needed support and things like that. So for us, it was incredibly important to bring someone onto our staff that would have that same effect, So we all know Shelly as the GOAT, the best player it's ever played. She's Hall of Fame. She's all that. But her time with our team last year, working with Corey Lopez as a radio announcer, allowed her to build relationship with our players. And so I've actually been trying to get Shelly to come back for a couple years now, and she had other things, that she was doing. So honestly, the stars aligned. She was exactly what we needed as a program. She was what our players needed, as a woman, as a mentor. And she's been fantastic. So she's probably the most positive person you could ever meet. And so every day she comes in the office, it's high fives, it's the huddle high fives. But she also keeps it very real with our players and tells them what they need to hear, and has been a real blessing for us.
Okay, anybody else? All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys.
And lunch is served, drinks are back here. Help yourself out there.